everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and listening to me to prattle on about the books that I'm about to read in this reading vlog. Okay, so basically all I'm going to be doing is trying to get through a ton of books this month. I actually have no TBR. I was going to put up a TBR, had internet problems, decided against it, ended up just filming as I go. All right, so as I said, we are at the start of September. Now, I do have quite a number of books that I would like to get through this month. So I'm going to step out of the way and hopefully you can see them. That stack of books there, right there, okay, is one part of them. I also have two more books. I've got this one, and I've got part 2 to this one as well to go onto that pile. And basically what I'm going to do is try and get through most of those books before the end of the month. Now, the reason being is because all of these have audio. I have a hectic week. I've got a hectic week every week this month. I've got my granddaughter coming up, so I'm going to be out and about with her. I'll be re-listening to Amari and the Night Brothers because I'm picking her up, and we're going to listen to it in the car, and then we'll continue reading it here at home. But the first book off the rank is going to be our monthly group read over in Discord, which is called Strangled Skein. It's part of the Stitches in Crime series. This is book 9, I believe. Yeah, September, book 9. So we've read a book each month. We've got one more book to go and it finishes up, and then we'll be starting a new series in November by Julianne Lindsay. You will find all those details over in Discord in October. But as I said, I have all these books. Most of these either have audio through Scribd or they have audio on my library app, and I'm still going through this pile over here, and basically what I'm going to be doing is just keep adding them on. Now, I do have one other read that I'm doing right now, and that is a buddy read with Coda and Sid from Storytime with Sid. That is the Wheel of Time series, where I am still currently, as I'm filming this video, currently sitting on about 700 pages in, 600 pages in book 6. So there is nearly 1,000 pages in this book. So I've still got a little while to go. I'm using that on sprints and all that sort of stuff. And I also have the marriage portrait to revisit this month as well. But I am taking it super slow with these books. So this one I'm probably going to just break up into, I think there's 600 pages in this. No, there's 500 pages in this. So I'm probably just going to break this up into 100 pages a week, maybe 150 pages a week, and get through that. I want to revisit this one because I don't think I gave it a fair chance. So I have been advised by lots of people that it is really good. I should read it again. So anyway, I am reading it again because we are doing the group reads for the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist over on our Discord. All right, so without further ado, we are going to get into the first book of the month, and this one here is going to be my check-in and wrap-up because I've already read it. Because I'm filming this on the 2nd. So, all right. So basically, this one I have actually listened to this in the car. I had to head over to Toowoomba and back, so I'm just going to talk about it now and get this one out of the way, and then we'll move on to the next one. And I don't know, what do you reckon? Do you reckon I should put all those books on a wheel and spin it? I think I should do that, and then we'll find out what book I'm going to be reading. Okay, so this one is still, we've got Paisley and her little boy Sawyer, and we've got Santi the police officer, and a whole cast of other characters. We're book 9, so it's, you know, we're the second to last book in the series. A lot is happening, although I didn't really gel with this one. Like, I felt that this one was really rushed for some reason. I'm not too sure why. I just got that sensation that it was really rushed, and it didn't wrapped up nicely, but it just didn't feel quite right. We didn't move anywhere in the story, and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of us that are reading this are really excited to see the two main characters, which is Paisley and Santi. They've been, you know, this sweet little relationship that has been building over time and all the rest of it. And last book, anyway, some big stuff happened. Okay, in this one, nothing seemed to move forward on that one. So yeah, so I wasn't too sure why we didn't move forward. So basically a lot's going to get wrapped up in the last book, and there's not as many parts. I'm just looking at it now. It's just behind me, and it's only about as thick as this book. So it's probably going to move really fast. As far as I know, there are no other books to this. There are, according to Goodreads, there are 10 primary works, and there are 10 published. The one that is behind me got published in January this year, and there's been nothing since. So No chitter chatter or anything like that. So it must be going to be wrapping up pretty quickly in the next book. So I can't read that till October, unfortunately. So I've got to wait a whole month before reading it so I can keep up with everyone. But this one, it covered child abuse, sexual child abuse. A very it opened up the subject for talking about, but it didn't really dive deep into it or anything like that. And it's sort of covering, and there is a murder, you know, like a couple of 100 years ago that they can't solve. And she's at a big house. You know, it was an old plantation. It also had slave quarters. It had secret passages. It had all the things. But I just felt like it was really, really rushed, this one. So I've only given this one 3 stars. It has, I would say this is my least favourite. Out of all of them that I've read, but I'm guessing that I think it's called Ada Time will be going off with a bang, and so hopefully I'll enjoy that one, and that will be a 5-star. I've had a couple of 5-star reads in this one, but in this series, but yeah, mostly 4 and 3 stars. I think there's only been 2 3s, but everything else I've enjoyed. I really like this series because of the simple fact that it touches on subjects that people might be uncomfortable talking about. And it is possible that it could get a conversation going and people asking questions and that sort of stuff. It is definitely steeped in American history, not Australian, obviously, because it's American published, and the author is also American, so you know, write what you know, as they say. But yeah, so she has touched on many different relevant topics of today. You know, we've had transgender topic, we've had slavery topic, we've had Indigenous peoples topics, we've had organ what do you call it, smuggling topic. There have been many relevant topics to today in this one. Granted, they don't go very deep. It's a cozy after all, but it is enough to get the conversation going. But as I said, I've given this 3 stars. I did enjoy it still because we were revisiting with my favourite characters, and I always like to see how she plans it out and gets to the end and all that sort of stuff. But 3 stars from me. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I don't know where I learned how to speak English, but apparently I can't speak it. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, okay, so the plan is to put all of those books onto a wheel. I'm going to spin. That will be the book that I'll be reading. As I said, these all have audio, so that means that I can start them by physically reading them, and then I can basically continue on with the audio while I'm working, driving, and all that sort of stuff. All right, I'm going to head off and do that. You have a great day, and I will see you after the spin of the wheel to find out what we're going to be reading. Hi everybody, and welcome back. Now, in the last clip I said I was going to spin the wheel, and I did spin the wheel to find out what I was going to read off that pile, but then I went looking for the audio because I couldn't remember whether it was in my library app or whether it was on a script, and basically it was, I went onto my library app and I realised that I had a book that was about to expire, so I wanted to read that. That is actually on my shelf as well. So yeah, the physical book I've got here, I picked this up secondhand. I think I got this from a book exchange over on the coast at the end of last year, so it's been on my shelf for a while. And I've also got Booktube as well, which my library also has in audio. So I'll probably add that onto that list as well. We'll see how we go. I haven't changed the list, the pile of books that I just previously showed you. But anyway, I thought I better read this before it expired. So this is the first time that I've read anything by Richard Osman, and it's a nice little introduction. Lately I've been in the real mystery vibe, so you know, there's the cozy mystery sort of feel and all that sort of stuff, and this sort of hits the spot. And so basically it is about four elderly people that are in a retirement home, and there is a murder, or what they believe it is a murder. And the Thursday Murder Club is basically one of their friends, Penny, was an ex-police officer, and they used to get together every Thursday and they talk about old cases and stuff like that. And then it turns out that there was some actual murders happening right now, and they were helping to solve it. So basically they were sleuthing, sticking their nose in where it wasn't wanted, and all the rest of it. And just, you know, I got the vibe from this that they just wanted to be a part of something and didn't just want to fade away in a retirement village. So it was a great little read, and I really enjoyed the characters and the strength of the female characters in this, and also how they played the police officers and stuff like that. It was just the banter in it was really good as well. Like, I wouldn't say it was a phenomenal book. Like, I've seen people say it's a 5-star, hands down, all that sort of stuff. I've still given it a pretty high rating because I had just a fun time reading it. There were some parts in it that were a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish, and I didn't really care, but overall, it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book. So that was only that, but that's a me thing. That's, you know, and you'll probably hear that a lot. That's a more a me thing, you know, just being on the go all the time, wanting to get stuff done and all that sort of stuff, and move through a story a bit quicker. As I said, I did listen to started reading it, and then I was listening to the audio along with it, which seems to be my favorite way of reading at the moment. I don't really have much more to say about this because, basically, if I talk too much, I will end up giving it away. And there are other books in the series as well. But it is an enjoyable read. If you haven't read it and you like a murder mystery, with a bit of a twist having a senior citizens solving the murder, then this is the book for you. It is a fun time read. I had a great time, but I can also understand how people probably wouldn't like it either, if you're not into that sort of thing. And as I said, the only thing that I had, there was a couple of spots where it's just a little bit slow, and but there's a lot happening in this book. There's a lot of characters and all that sort of stuff, and it's not hard to keep track of everybody either. So it makes it quite an enjoyable read. Sometimes I find if I've got a large cast of characters to keep track of, I can get a little bit confused about what's happening. But the way this was written, it kept coming back to Elizabeth, and it kept coming back to, what was her name? Joyce. Kept coming back to Joyce and what they would do, but mostly what Elizabeth would do. And then Elizabeth would go and speak to Penny, who was not well, and all that sort of stuff. And I won't say any more than that, then she was not well, and then you'll find out about that. And the twist at the end, who it ended up being, like, I was quite surprised with one of them, and there was all these little other things that were happening, and they were all just nicely tied up and everything, and we can move on to the second book. So I gave this a 4-star rating overall. I had it, as I said, it was a pure fun time read. All right, so I'm also going to talk about another book today that I have read that is not part of the wheel. This was a bingo prompt, and the bingo prompt was to read a book with snow on the cover. I struggled with this, and the only one I could find that had snow on the cover was Winners. Now, this was a surprising book. I have not read this before. This is one of the ones that I hadn't read before. This is based around, what was her name? Lily. I'm terrible with names. This is based around Lily. She is an Olympic, junior Olympic champion, and she was going for gold in the next Olympics when a massive accident happened to her, like massive life-changing accident happened to her. She was with her ski instructor, and we find this out in like the first couple of pages. She was in a town, I cannot remember where she was, but she was in some town that wasn't hers. They were there skiing. She was with her ski instructor. There was a massive storm happening and all that sort of stuff. She could, she still wanted to go out, even though her father was a bit reluctant and that, but he felt safe that she was going with her ski instructor. She was on the ski lifts and chairlifts, and the cable broke, and everybody that was on there fell, and subsequently she ended up with basically a life-changing injury. So basically, and it's hard to talk about how this story progresses without giving some of the major plot points away. So basically, the accident happened. Her father is a single parent. He lost his wife to a car accident. We find that out in the first couple of pages. To a car accident when she was 25 years old, and Lily was only 3. So they've always been on their own. They're very close-knit. He's very wealthy. I believe he's a stockbroker or something like that. So he's portrayed as very wealthy. When the accident happens, he's not in his hometown. He's in a small town, and the woman that operates on her he's giving her a hard time. He's very gruff, and rightly so. He's very worried about his daughter and all that sort of stuff. So she is a main player, and then we have another player that comes into it, which is his best friend, and then the doctor that operates on her is also a main player in the story, and then her friend from Harvard. They're not great. Look, they're not super close or anything, but they're, they've known each other for a long time, and they talk and all that sort of stuff. So she is also a main player. So these 4 characters all come in and revolving around Lily. There's a couple of side characters revolving around Lily as well, like her own age. She's only 17 years old. And basically, we go through her journey of trying to recuperate to getting back where she was and having a whole new life, and what that entails for her, and how she copes with it, but also how her father copes with it as well. Meanwhile, their tragedy is happening, playing out. The doctor also has a tragedy revolving around her as well, and we're seeing how it plays out for her as well. It was a pretty good read. I really enjoyed the disability rep, and while not everybody would have that money behind them and all that sort of stuff to get back where they were and all that sort of stuff, it was good. It covered the things that people go through, and all that sort of stuff, and and how life can throw you a curveball, but it doesn't have to be the end of everything, and all that sort of stuff. It's a typical Danielle Steele read. There's a tragedy at the beginning, or some life-altering event that happens, or some goal they're trying to achieve, and basically it just went on from there. A standard 3-star read from me. Not a bad book, not a shitty book by a long shot, but I really enjoyed it. I actually listened to this. I had to go over to Toowoomba again, and I stuck it on and listened to it in the car, and it was great. And then I finished up reading it when I got home. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and highly recommend it if you like that sort of thing. Dr. Jesse Matthews, that was the doctor's name. It's on the back. I should have just read the back of the magazine of the book. So yeah, so that's another one that I can tick off the list that I have read, which is fabulous. Now I have spun the wheel, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the book that I have read. Okay, so I have added all of the books, that pile that I pointed to. I've added all the books, and I've numbered them from the bottom 1 to the top. I have 18. So we're going to spin and find out what I'm going to be reading. Okay, so number 2 is Saving Missy by Beth Morrey. All right, so that's what I'm going to be reading. Okay, so as I said earlier, I have spun the wheel, and I've also read this book as well, because this I'm filming this. I think what's the date today? 8th. I'm filming this. So basically, I spun the wheel after the first clip where I said I was going to spin the wheel. I've just numbered them. I haven't worried about putting the name of the book. I just didn't have time for that, so numbering was just a lot easier. Although, now that I'm starting to pull books out, what I'm doing is, once I've read the book and I've talked about it, I'm putting it back in its place on the pile, but back to front, so you'll just see the pages of it. So anyway, as I said, I read Beth Morrey's Saving Missy. Now, just going back to talking about the Thursday Murder Club, this had some sad aspects in it about the aging process, and how people can feel a little bit left out of the world and all that sort of stuff. So that sort of got me thinking, and and all that sort of stuff. Do I need to make connections and stuff like that? Being an introvert, this worries me as I get older. This book that spun up, Saving Missy, is all about that. And on Sprints, I was saying to Brittany, I'm not too sure whether I want to read this book, because the simple fact is that this was on Wednesday morning. I didn't know whether I wanted to read this book, because the simple fact is the content in it. So let me just give you a quick synopsis of the back. Grieving for a family she has lost or lost touch with, Missy is haunted by the echoes of her footsteps in her empty house, and the sound of the radio in the dark, and the tick, tick, tick of the watching clock. Prickly yet fragile, Missy knows that her loneliness is her own fault. She deserves no more than this, and not after what she has done, but a chance encounter in the park with two very different women opens up the doors for something new. So this is a chance encounter book. It's all centered around Missy. Missy is extremely lonely. She's 79 years old in the book. She's lost her husband. She's estranged from her daughter because they had a massive fight. And her son lives in Australia with her grandson, and she only gets to see him once a year. So she's and she's in this beautiful big house. Like, you can see the houses on the front. That's how I pictured it when it was being described. She's in this big, beautiful house. It's very sparse and all that sort of stuff. So we have a little bit of a flashback every now and again of how she felt as a mother and looking after the children and being married and all that sort of stuff. So we're getting that reflection going back. And she can pinpoint, how she was prickly and all this sort of stuff. So it is a little bit about personal growth as well, this book. So I was worried that I was going to cry because of the content. I didn't. I read it on Spencer and I didn't cry. The first half of the book was great, okay? The second half of the book, however, oh my God, it made me feel all the things. Because I'm coming up to being an empty nester and all that sort of stuff, it was just, and I worry that I'm going to be this person and be lonely and not have connections and all that sort of stuff, being an introvert and finding it very hard to make friends and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I have everybody here on Booktube and all that sort of stuff, which is absolutely fabulous, and it makes me feel great every day when we converse and hang out with one another and all that sort of stuff, and I consider you all my friends. But, you do need to have some real life friends too, right? We can't all have virtual friends. So anyway, I have a wonderful group of women that I have in my life, and I spend as much time as I can with them, although Mother Nature has had other plans for me just recently with storms and whatnot, and the internet hasn't helped either. But we always catch up and we try to meet up once a year. So that aspect of my life is great. But in this book, Missy did not have that. And she was walking, I think she was going for a coffee or something like that, and she happened to come across, what was her name? I think it was Angela, I think her name was, and her little boy. Well, Angela was in a cafe with a very disgruntled girl. A dog comes into it to keep her company. She meets, as I said, Angela, who has a little boy around the same age as her grandson, and then she also meets Sylvia, who is very eccentric and is a designer and all that sort of stuff. Now, there's lots of aspects of things that we do as mothers to make our life easier, reflected on in this book, and also about husbands that are there for you and love you, but not there for you when it comes to raising the children and stuff like that. So I can sort of relate to some of the content in this, and we all have those moments where we feel like we're alone and all that sort of stuff in the raising of our children because our men are busy or our partners are busy or whatever the case may be. So yeah, there was a bit of that in there, a little bit of a reflection and everything like that. Now when you go into her house, it's very sparse, and she gives you the reason why, from when she was being a mother and just wanting to be on top of things and not be stressed and all that sort of stuff, and clutter used to make her feel really stressed and all that sort of stuff. So it covers a lot of different things. It's also covering the fragility of your mental health as well, and how you can decline very quickly. I think it was a very well-written book. I believe this was her, Beth Morrie's first book, her debut novel. I don't know if it's her only book. I haven't looked into her, but I believe this was a debut novel. Let me just have a look. It doesn't really say anything in here. I'm just looking for the author's note. No, I can't find anything. I just have this sneaking suspicion that this was a debut novel by this particular author. There's no list of books or anything in the front of the book either, but I had a great time reading this. I have actually given this 4 stars because this is a very much an emotional read, and if you're feeling lonely or you're struggling to make friends or anything like that, this probably would make you cry or make you feel the feels. Maybe not cry, but still get you thinking about the choices that you're making and stuff like that, and how it is really important for you to have human connection, even though we have all this virtual stuff at our fingertips these days. You know, that human connection in life is very key, and that's what I took away from this book. So I have given it a solid 4 stars, and I must say I believe there are several people that watch my channel that will absolutely love this book as well. So that is the first one off the pile that I have read. I have spun the wheel again, and I'm going to cut to that so you can find out what I'm reading, and when I'm finished reading that book, you will get to hear all about it. All right, have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next check-in. Bye. Okay, so I have already read one book, and now I'm back to spin to find out what the next book is that I am going to be reading. So let's spin it and find out. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I am going to be reading Ruthless Women by Melanie Blake. All right, so let's find out what it's about. Well, hi everybody, and welcome back. I'm here to talk about a book that I have just finished. It's Sunday evening. I didn't get much reading done over the weekend. I'm just doing a little bit of diamond painting right now, but I didn't get much reading done over the weekend. I ended up going to Brisbane out with the family for dinner. I dropped in some stuff to a friend that's helping me out with some cross-stitch stuff. So I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked to with her, but we were sort of a bit under the pump because we had to get back. And, you know, it was a couple of hours drive. So I'm a little bit worse for wear today. And so I just sort of took it easy. I basically got busy yesterday doing stuff with my daughter. Then we went to Brisbane. Didn't get home till I think it was about 11 o'clock last night. So by the time I got to sleep, it was like 1 o'clock. Anyway, I slept in, and then this morning I had to get up and do some cross-stitch stuff, charts and everything, and get them off to some model stitches and whatnot. And then I decided that I was going to, after that, I was going to do some craft and listen to the rest of this. But my husband had other ideas. He came over and we had to do some yard work. So here I am. Anyway, he left this afternoon to go back to work because he's working on a car that we need to get out of the workshop. And so I finished off reading Ruthless Women. Now, I did not know what this book was about. I got this book in the Advent box. It was book 13. I've written that in the cover so I know what it was from last year, and I am so glad that I got this. I love this book so much that I got straight onto Amazon and got her next book, which is called Guilty Women, I think it's called. Anyway, there are many names that I need to remember in this, all of which I've probably forgotten, but anyway, it is revolving around the behind the scenes antics of a few women, a couple of men, are behind the scenes of a soap or a drama, a continuing drama as they like to call them instead of soaps, in this called Falcon Bay, and it's set in off the coast of England, and basically we've got director Farah, we've got Catherine, who is the main she's been on the show for 40 years. We also have Amanda, who has just had a baby and has returned back to work only to find that her husband is now her boss because a new owner has come to town and basically is shaking things up because their ratings are really low and they're trying to get Falcon Bay back to the #1 slot. Well, I started reading this and I'm like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be like. But anyway, I got it in my Christmas Advent box and I'm trying to read things off my shelf. I thought that I wasn't going to enjoy it. But I had such a fun time reading this. And I think I said on Sprints on Friday that this is very reminiscent of Jackie Collins. I have never read anything by Melanie Blake. I believe she's only got 3 books. One of her books is a little bit hard to get. It's like $50 for the paperback when I went and looked on Amazon. I haven't looked anywhere else because I thought $50, I'm not going to pay for that. But that one is akin to Daisy Joan and the Six, and yeah. So I'm like, oh, well, okay, if that's what that's like, I definitely want to read that, but I will look for a cheaper version of it. But this was absolutely fabulous. As I said, I loved it so much that I ended up ordering the second one, so that is on its way. I still don't have an estimated time of delivery yet, but I'm sure it'll get here. This was published in 2021 or 2020, I think. It says Best Book of 2021, but I thought it was 2020 that it was published. No, 2021. So it's a relatively recent book, but it is very reminiscent of Jackie Collins. And when I went and did a little bit of research on the author, just went and, you know, about the author and whatnot, there was a few comments saying that, yes, very much, you know, this is a new generation of Jackie Collins. So I loved Jackie Collins back in the day. And I even said that when I was on Sprints, that it really reminded, like I felt like it had a Hollywood vibes, Jackie Collins sort of vibe to it and all the rest of it. There's a lot of backbiting in this and, you know, women behaving badly in some cases and whatnot. But the way it ended was like, oh my God. It was just, it kept me on the edge of my seat towards the end because they're trying to get the ratings up. So they decided to do a live show for Christmas, and there's a whole slew of things that happen around all of that happening and whatnot. So yeah, it was just a fun time read. It was really, really good. There was a lot of sex scenes in it and stuff like that. Not overly spicy, you know, there were a little bit of spice, but not, you know, not need to take a break from the book spice, you know. So yeah, so it was really a good fun read. If you like that sort of trashy, I call them trashy novels. If you like that sort of trashy novel, you're in for a really fun time on this one. I've actually given it, purely on the fun factor, I've given it a 4-star rating. And I also had this on audio as well. Now, the narrator on the audio, she is pretty good. I did like her way she swung between all the characters and all that sort of stuff. Towards the end of the book, I just got so used to listening to her and I could really, like at the beginning it was hard to distinguish between a couple of the characters, but by the end, probably even a third of the way through the book, she really stepped up her game and you could really distinguish between the authors, the characters and whatnot. So yeah, I really, and I'm sorry, I don't have the name of the narrator. This was on Scribd here in Australia. So yeah, it's a 4-star from me, purely on vibe. Looking forward to getting Guilty Women, which is the next book that I'm going to read of hers. They're standalone. I don't think, while the covers look very similar, I don't think they're a continuation on or anything. This was nicely wrapped up and whatnot. But that's all I've really got to say about Ruthless Women. I have spun the wheel and you will see what I'm going to be reading in the next clip. Okay, so I'm here to spin up another book. So let's spin the wheel and find out what I'm going to read next. Okay, so it's number 15. So let me count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right, it's Mary Higgins Clark, As Time Goes By. All right, I'm off to read it. All right, so I've spun the wheel and we've spun up number 15, and the book that I'm going to be reading is Mary Higgins Clark, As Time Goes By. This is about a journalist, Delaney Wright, is on the brink of stardom after she begins covering a sensational murder trial for the evening news. She should be thrilled, yet her growing desire to locate her birth mother consumes her thoughts when Delaney's friends offer her a look into the mystery surrounding her birth. They uncover a shocking secret they do not want to reveal. So there you go. I cannot remember if I've read any of Mary Higgins Clark. I feel like I have. Maybe back in the day, like when she first came onto the scene, maybe? I don't know. I know I've seen heaps of her books and all that sort of stuff, but I don't actually know. Anyway, I am going to get back to some diamond painting. I'm going to, this actually has an audio, so all the books that are on that thing have an audio with it. And again, I think this one also came in a box as well. Gee, she's got a lot of books. I just opened up where she had, yeah, I've probably read one or two, I think, back in the day. But yeah, I'm going to read this and see how I go with it. It's not a large book. It's only got 69 chapters, 272 pages, so they're probably going to be pretty quick chapters and all that sort of stuff. But I'm going to get back to some diamond painting, fire up the audio and spend the night, it's a Sunday night, yeah, doing a little bit of diamond painting, a little bit of reading, and I'll see you when I'm finished the book. everybody, and welcome back. I am here to talk about As Time Goes By Mary Higgins Clark. Now, I think I said in the previous clip that I thought that I may have read some of her books, and just looking at the titles, I don't think I have. This one came in a book grocer box, and I cannot remember whether it was the Christmas one or whether it was just another box, because I just randomly get boxes sometimes to fill up my shelves, so I've got stuff to read. But yeah, so I'm not 100% sure which box it came in, and then the more I thought about it, the more I don't think I've actually read a Mary Higgins Clark. I think I've picked them up lots of times, but I've never actually purchased one or anything. I am probably going to purchase a few of her books in the future, especially if I can find them from Bob the Booker. Because, you know, $2 for a quick story and all the rest of it. So these are really digestible books. This particular one was very digestible. It was a very quick read. It was really fast paced and whatnot. It's set in a courtroom, and we're following the main character in this is, what was her name? Delaney Wright, and she is a journalist, and she is on she's filling in for a news anchor on the local news, and basically she covers a lot of courtroom stuff, criminal stuff and all that sort of stuff in her day-to-day life. So basically she's at the studio. There's a story about a man that finds his adoptive mother, or his biological mother, because he's adopted, and she is also adopted as well, and she's been adopted since she was about 3 years old. But she's never done anything about it, never tried to find her biological mother or father for that matter, and there's a bit of a thing around her birth and whatnot. So no one has ever told her who her parents are or anything like that, and she doesn't want to upset her adoptive parents, so she's never really pursued it until now. And so basically we have Betsy Grant is on trial for the murder of her husband. Her husband had Alzheimer's, and he was quite a reputable doctor in his day, and basically he ended up with Alzheimer's, and then it turns out that someone killed him. Now, he was very well off, and there was a son as well, and there was also business partners and ex-business partners, and there was a whole myriad of a cast of characters in this as well. And so basically I cannot really talk any more apart from that to what actually happened in the book, because it's going to give it away. But needless to say, Delaney had some friends who were detectives who won the lottery, and basically that's what they did with their time now, is they basically go around and trying to solve things and whatnot. So they went on the hunt for Delaney's mother, and they found out who her mother was. And there's a whole story there why it was all hush hush and all that sort of stuff, and why she you know, and why it was so, you know, no one can know about it or anything like that. There's a whole story there, which was quite appalling, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, it ended up being, you know, tied up in the end, and she, you know, they help her to try and get closure and all that sort of stuff. And Betsy Grant, as I said, is on trial. And then there's also another thing that is happening in the background, because there's another journalist that comes into it, and he's investigating a death of a man that died from an opiate overdose. So all of these stories are tying up together and intersecting and all the rest of it. So yeah, it was a very, very quick read. We're getting it all from everybody's point of view in the book as well, but mostly from Delaney, so because she's observing what's happening around it, and she's telling us what she's seeing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and we sort of learn everything along the way as she learns it as well. So yeah, it was a great quick read. As I said to it, I burnt through this just listening, and just before I went to bed I'd done a little bit of immersive reading and finished it off, but it helped me get through some diamond painting, which was great. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've given it a 3.5-star rating. As I said, it's not a 5-star read. It's a really great for a travel book, you know, like something you want to read on a plane, if you're traveling by car or camping or something like that. Great little read. I highly recommend it, especially if you like that courtroom drama, and, you know, finding your family. type stories and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a really good book. But that's all I've really got to say about this one. I'm going to move on to the next one. But this basically is now the end of this week's reading vlog, because this is all of the books that I have read this week. So I am going to say thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoyed hearing the books that I have read this week, and keep an eye out next week for the next lot of books that I'm reading. I'm going to keep spinning that wheel and get through that big pile of books, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.